know God's in control, and he knows the desires of my heart, and he's going to put me exactly where I need to be, right where my family needs to be.
Welcome to Sports Spectrum, keeping Jesus in the sports conversation. Here's your host for today's show, former ESPN producer, Jason Romano.
What's up, Ty Summers? Welcome to Sports Spectrum. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited because it's not quite near football season yet, but we're getting there. And It's time to turn the pages onto 2022. But I need to start with your birthday. I was thinking about this. December 31st, 1995, right?
Yes,
the day you were
sir.
born, you're 26. But that birthday every year is being on New Year's Eve. That is a day, I guess, everyone is getting together to celebrate and hang out. So what were birthdays like for you, maybe as a kid on New Year's Eve? Were they the best birthdays ever, or did you kind of get, the shaft because everybody was celebrating, a new year?
Oh, no, I loved it. I mean, I never had school, so that was always nice. It was always during winter break, so that was always a plus.
Yeah.
I don't know. My family, we always ended up doing something, but it did make it tough setting up birthdays because people would be like doing trips, going places. So there's probably a few years I ever had, only probably 3 years that I had like an actual like birthday party. Otherwise, it was a lot more like family stuff. I'd have one of my best friends come with us to go to Dave & Buster's or do whatever. But I've always been low key, I never needed anything fancy. I mean, heck, after I turned 21, I don't even really celebrate a birthday anymore. It's kind of like, all right, let's go have dinner. My wife's always big about, especially now that I'm older, right? And since I've been married, about like doing surprises and things. She's really good at that, but I'm good with whatever. I'm good with being low key.
So what is your most memorable birthday? You said there was surprises in there and things like that. What's a memorable birthday for Ty Summers?
I would say, actually my rookie year here, my wife, who was my fiance then, set up a surprise birthday party for me with some of my teammates and their wives or girlfriends, which was really cool. It was at Blake Martinez's house back when he was with the Packers. Just thought we were going to get ready to go to the casino, for New Year's Eve with Blake and his wife. And I walked down to like, hey, come down to the basement real quick. Go down there, and it's just like streamers and people, surprise, happy birthday. And I was like, what? Like, that was really cool. That was probably the first time anyone's ever done a surprise birthday party for me. So that was pretty sweet.
I was going to say, do you like surprises? Are you a surprise kind of guy, or do you like to know what's coming?
It depends on what it is.
Yeah.
If there's something that needs a plan, then it needs a plan. But, something like that, I was all about it.
That's awesome. Ty Summers is joining us here on Sports Spectrum. You're entering year 4 now in the NFL. So what's the biggest difference between the Ty Summers who was coming in as a 7th round drafted rookie in 2019 and Ty Summers that I'm talking to here today?
I would say, well, obviously there's a sense of confidence that comes in with experience. So kind of knowing that I've been here for this long, I'm a vet now. I've been a veteran that last couple of years, but now it's like 4th year, man. I feel like I've been here for a long time. Like I feel like a veteran.
Yeah.
So like kind of that mindset, I would say, and just kind of understanding the process of what it means to be a pro. Whereas before, I've always been like, go 100 miles an hour all the time. That's what you need to do. But I didn't realize there's ebbs and flows when it comes to training, preparing, the way to break down film. I've gotten better at the way I study film. Certain things when it comes to like making myself the best player, like I kind of understand what I need to do now, like what works best for me. Whereas before I didn't know, I was still figuring it out.
Do you have a favorite moment, on the field as a player? You only, have 3 years behind you and hopefully a lot more in front of you. But what's a favorite moment? What was your favorite moment that you can look back on at this point and say that was pretty awesome?
I would say my second year when we played the Saints, that was probably my favorite because that was the first game that I got defensive snaps. And it was like the 3rd game of the season. And one of our guys got hurt. So I was in there and I hadn't had any reps at practice the first 3 weeks. I hadn't had any defensive snap reps. It's just like, that's the way we do things. If you're starting, you get them kind of thing. And so I kind of just got thrown in the fire a little bit, but I ended up having 9 tackles in that game. Led the team in tackles, played 2.5 quarters, and we ended up winning. And so that was pretty special just to be a part of that. And I feel like, I'm not dogging on special teams at all, but it's not the same as playing defense. Special teams, like it's just I come here because I wanted to play. You want to play defense, right? And I go out there and I play special teams because that's what my role is right now, and I'm gonna be the best that I can at that. But it's just defense is more fun.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. It's funny too because the way you just described that is the way a lot of guys have to be ready in the NFL, guys who might be backups or playing on special teams or in different roles, and you don't prepare and you just have to kind of be thrown to the fire. Can you take me through what that was like? And even just in general, your preparation of being ready, even if you don't get reps, to be able to say, you know what, plug me in and I'm here and I'm ready and I'm going to do the job. What is that like to prepare like that?
Well, that's something that I pride myself on, is just like being readily available. I've always been someone that even in college, I was kind of bounced around. I was a starter, and then my coach would move me a position, and I wasn't starting. I'd rotate. I'd play back to linebacker or edge. It would be all over the place, right? So I had to learn to adapt, learn to make the most, of whatever the opportunity was. And my opportunity was, the situation was not getting reps of practice. So for me, I was like, okay, I got to get reps somehow. So I'd either be standing in the back during walkthroughs, kind of like mirroring the steps of guys in front of me. They're actually getting the reps. Or when I'd watch film in the meeting room, I'd try to, communicate what I would need to be communicating and mentally walk through what I'd have to do. And then same when I'd watch it again at home, I would just have to try to make myself get those mental reps because I knew I wasn't getting physical. And so one thing I figured out about myself too is I tend to play better when there's like less expectation, which unfortunately is, it is what it is, I guess. But in that situation, I hadn't had a rep practice for 3 weeks, so it's like I knew that I was just going out there to play ball at that point. It's like, you can't go out here and expect me to perform the same level of these guys because you didn't give me a single rep. And so it's like it gave me a sense of freedom when I played. And so, but I went out there and executed on my assignments. Like there was little things here and there that I could have done better. I was maybe a little aggressive on run fakes because I'm just amped up, right? But as a general rule, it's like I can go out there and play freer whenever I wasn't supposed to be out there. You know what I'm saying? Whereas whenever I knew I'm supposed to play, like there's a game right after that I was supposed to start, and I was preparing so much that I in turn ended up overthinking it because I was trying to be perfect. I'm a perfectionist. And so I need to find a way to find that fine line of, okay, I'm preparing and I'm make sure I know everything I need to do and I know how to execute it, but then I still play free when the time comes. And so that's something I'm still trying to figure out. I mean, that's probably something I always battle, but as long as I, can find a good balance, then I can be a great player.
And yet special teams is vitally important. All you have to do is look at the playoffs last year and you understand how that can win or lose a game. Tell me about preparing on special teams and that role. I think, it's not, glamorous at all, but it's vital and it might keep you on the roster, right? So you have to prove your value and your worth, obviously in all different places, being ready to play linebacker, being ready to play special teams. Tell me about special teams and that, being on that side of the ball, the not so glamorous, but so vitally important side.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's not flashy, but as we saw in the playoff game, it's crucial.
Right.
And I feel like it's important that guys, that it's important. A lot of guys are here because they take pride. You take pride in what you do. You give your best, especially on offense and defense, but you need to have that same approach when it comes to special teams because as you can tell, it makes a difference, whether you realize it or not. It's like special teams, you don't really get thanked for something very often, but you mostly get criticized if something goes wrong. It's kind of how it works a little bit.
Yeah.
But, and it is what it is. Like for me, I appreciate it because it's given me an opportunity to play as long as I have. That's been my job. I've been a backup backer, and so I've been ready to play when necessary, but this is what's kept me active every week. And so for that reason, I'm going to continue to try to perfect that craft. And I feel like if each person that is in my position that has that same mindset, when they come together as a unit, we got a chance to be a good unit. So I'm excited too with the additions to the new coaching staff that we have for the special teams as well. Lots of attention to detail and things and kind of getting guys going a little bit. Whereas, maybe before a lot of guys kind of weren't doing that and they weren't taking it as serious as they should have.
You play for one of the most storied franchises ever in the NFL with the Packers. Describe what it's like to be a member of the Packers, wearing that uniform, playing your home games at a historic place like Lambeau. What is that like? I think from the outside looking in as a fan, I think there's a lot of people, even if you're not a fan of the Packers that you still admire the storied history and just what that's like to put that helmet on, that with that G on the side, and go out there and play in Lambeau?
Yeah, it's an absolute honor. I mean, I grew up a Cowboys fan, so of course there were many instances that I was like, come on, beat the Packers, boo, not a fan, right? But no matter all of that, right, I always respected the Packers and who they were and what they mean to the game of football. And so to be able to step out on this field, almost every Sunday, and just be surrounded by the guys that I'm surrounded about in the locker room. Like I tell people this all the time, like before every game, regardless of what stadium we're playing in, but I'll sit there in my locker right before going out, and I'll scan the room real slowly and kind of just take like a mental picture of what it looks like. Just because I just appreciate every moment, and I always want to play like it's my last, and never take it for granted, because this is a special, special place.
Have you played the Cowboys since you have come to Green Bay?
Yeah.
You guys played each other?
Yeah, my rookie year we played them in Dallas, which was cool. So I had some family and friends that got to go to that, and we beat them, which was awesome as well. So yeah, no, that was a great time. No, I'm all Packers now.
No, of course you are. Well, let me be completely transparent here, Ty. I'm a Cowboys fan since 1979, so I'm with you in terms of growing up a Cowboys fan. But I'm just trying to remember like where you were. The most famous game I can remember is probably 2014, the Dez caught it game, the Packers Cowboys. You probably were in college at that time. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Rooting for the Cowboys, right?
All day. Yeah. Which, I mean, as a Packers player now, I'd still see that as a catch. So I mean, it's just is what it is. But yeah, that was great. I remember that though.
Absolutely. Ty Summers is our guest here on Sports Spectrum, Green Bay Packers linebacker. Let's sort of shift the conversation and intersect it with faith. You're wearing the cross. I see it around your neck. That's the reason we want to have you on. Obviously, we want to talk about your football journey, but we want to talk about your faith journey as well. So tell me about the importance of Christ in your life.
Man, it's crucial. I actually was having a conversation with my teammates yesterday about this. But just given the amount of stress that's involved with being here and doing what we do, and the risk of getting cut or traded every day, I mean, it could happen at any moment, and just the uncertainty of what the future looks like here, it's so reassuring knowing that, I can only control what I can control, because God's in control of the rest. I was talking to a buddy, like I said, and I was like, man, I can't imagine not having faith, because if I was here not having faith, I'm a stressed out mess, a good amount of time for whatever reason. If I didn't have my faith, I don't know where I would be. I wouldn't be here. I probably would have been gone a long time ago, because I wouldn't have been able to walk out the locker room and go to practice, but it's like, there's a whole nother level of, just life that's given to you, just whenever you're with Christ. And so that's something that's been really important to me. It's gotten me through a lot of different things, injuries, having someone placed in front of you on the depth chart, whatever the situation, relationships. It's crucial. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for God.
Well, you said you're a perfectionist, which I thought was interesting when you used that word earlier, because it's the complete opposite with our faith. We're hopeless, right? We're powerless on our own. And yet you're a perfectionist. How do you kind of marry those two together, where you want to be a perfectionist on the field, but understanding our faith is not defined by anything that we can do ourselves off the field?
Yeah. I mean, it is tough because on the field, if I go out there, I could have, play, let's say 50 snaps in a game. But if I have 5 bad plays, it eats me up. Even if I had 45 other ones that were either average, like did my job, or good, I don't focus on that, because it bothers me. But there are so many times that I've sinned, right? And I know I've sinned, and it's something I've done over and over again. And I just feel like I can't be forgiven for that same reason, because I know I'm not perfect. Right. And I just have to remind myself that, in the Bible, it talks about, and I can't quote it, but it talks about that you basically doubting that you're forgiven by not accepting the fact that you're forgiven. If you ask for forgiveness, God's there to forgive you. But if you hold on to that and you let that eat you up and stress you out, that's the devil working, because he's trying to make you think that you can't be forgiven, that you're too far gone, all these reasons. And so to that point, maybe I should start taking that over to football, give myself a little grace, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a completely different ball game because, like you said, I mean, as a perfectionist, I take that in everything. Like, if I had a bad conversation with someone, or maybe someone misunderstood what I said, thought I was being like trying to be rude, or maybe I was rude for whatever some situation was. It doesn't matter how the rest of the day went. That's going to bother me because I know that I wish I would have left that conversation better. I wish I would have left a better impact on that person, or I wish I wouldn't have said that trying to be funny. Whatever the situation is. But the biggest thing is to remember we're forgiven. We're set free because His grace is enough, and move on.
Where does that take shape for you, this faith? That you have a moment that you can pinpoint when Christ became real to you and you began that relationship with Him?
I grew up in a Christian household. I was very fortunate to have two parents that prioritized that. I mean, to the point that we'd have Bible studies together as a family before we'd go to school in the mornings, like middle school and high school. And so having that foundation, I was really involved with FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I was a captain, a leadership role from, sixth grade all the way through even high school, and college. I was associated with FCA as well. So that's another big part as well. But when it comes down to a specific moment, I mean, when you're in that kind of household, it's like you're always kind of around it. But I will say that there's definitely times that I really, truly recognize and felt God's presence in moments of hardship, because I feel like that's whenever He makes Himself so much more known. And so one that is an example would be my junior year in high school. I was the backup quarterback, played wildcat, receiver, running back, all that kind of stuff. Our starting quarterback got hurt in the third game. And so I was like, hey, I'm the dude now. Like, this is my job.
Yeah.
And go out there, and 3 series later, broke my collarbone.
Ugh.
And, it was just like, obviously that's painful enough. But then the fact that I know I'm going to be out 7-8 weeks hurt, especially my junior year. At this point, I didn't have any offers. But I had this goal of wanting to play, college for sure. And then, of course, professional. And so that was a low moment, because it was like, man, I thought this was what was intended of me. Like, I thought this was what I was supposed to do. Like, everything that's built up to this time that I had this moment, and it was just taken out. Like, what now? And it was literally that next day I got a letter in the mail from I think it was Harvard. First letter I'd gotten, and I was like, oh, I was so excited about it. But I was like, man, what is it? This means nothing. I'm not playing the rest of the season. But it was through then conversations with my dad and one of our coaches that was associated with FCA that was speaking life into me. That was, hey, this is a perfect opportunity for you to learn how to handle, an obstacle. This is a speed bump in the road right now, and all you can control is what you do from here on out. You can practice what it means to be a leader, not just on the field, but off the field too. And so that's kind of what I took it upon myself. And I was getting in the Word just about every day. I was making sure I was going to Wednesday night, church. There were the youth church, Sunday church, and FCA. I think we had it on like Tuesdays. I can't remember the exact day we had it, but I was like constantly just trying to just submerge myself in that, because I knew that was where I found my peace, my sense of peace. And I became a better teammate out of that. There's just so much that happened for me in that moment. And it wasn't just because my faith was definitely strong, and not that it wasn't strong before, but it was just like a situation that truly like put full reliance on God, because again, He controls the future. He knows what's best for me. Like, what can I do now? And so that was a big moment for me.
Well, it probably prepared you too for obstacles that come your way in the role that you have now with the Packers, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, even at TCU, the things that I dealt with there, it's like I was able to overcome a lot emotionally and physically in that situation that then caused me to have a phenomenal senior year that gave me the opportunity for TCU to even see me and be like, okay, hey, we don't need a quarterback, but we could use them, offered me as a linebacker. And then that just kind of snowballed into every other obstacle that I faced. I knew how to handle it. Everyone has their own little nuance of what you need to do to be successful, to get out of a situation or make it better. And they're all unique, right? But having that foundation because of that situation is what I think helped me going forward for sure. Set the tone.
So you need to talk to your coach and your quarterback and let them know they should put a package or two in if you want to completely catch the team off guard. Where's the
No,
Ty Summers trick play, right?
I know. Hey, I know it needs to happen. I'm gonna try to start knocking elbows and kind of nudging them, see what they think.
Absolutely. What do you got to lose, right? Exactly.
Exactly.
So how important is it for you as a follower of Christ to be intentional about that? Obviously, I always tell people you don't want to be forceful ever about your faith and enforce that on anybody else, but you want to be intentional about living that out. What does that look like for you as you kind of balance that with the job that you have and just being the husband that you are as well?
I would say that means that you need to continuously act it, right? A lot of people will say that they're a Christian, but they don't live it by any means. You know what I'm saying? And to live it means like every single day, even when people aren't looking, it's the way that you communicate. It's the way that you speak. You edify other people with the way that you speak. For me, like one easy way to do that is not cursing. Right. I think that's just a perfect example. Not to say Christians can't curse. I know I got plenty of people that are strong in faith. They like to throw out some curse words.
I'm the same way, Ty. I'm the same way. Yeah.
And I'm not by no means condemn that, but the way I see it is like, okay, would Jesus curse? So it's like I try to compare. Okay, what would Jesus do? And as silly, as childlike as that it seems, right? That saying, it's just I think that's so accurate because like in whatever the situation is. If you find yourself getting frustrated because things aren't going your way or someone's trying to point the finger at you for something that you didn't do, or let's say you mess up a play or whatever the situation is, there's two ways you can go about responding to that. There's either one that's the flesh, it's like the flesh that wants to get angry, wants to turn on the other person, that wants to just curse out loud, wants to maybe even physically get after somebody. And then there's the other way that's peace, that's love, that's patience, that's kindness, goodness, the fruits of the spirit, essentially, and it's like, I think, especially with the platform that we have now, as a husband and as a teammate and as a friend, as a son, we're called to act different. We're called to be different, not act like everybody else, and so that's kind of the way I challenge myself every day. And I just want to just be a light. I want to make people smile when they're around me. I want to make people happy that they're doing what they're doing, even if it's hard because we're in this together. I just wanted people to come to church with me. And it's not a way of forcing it, right? It's just the way you act. Because when you act like that, people want to know, like, all right, what's different? Like, why do you feel like this right now? Or why are you acting like this when it's hard? Where is that coming from? And that's when it goes into conversation. Well, if you're asking about it,
yeah.
Because my identity is in Christ, or whatever it is, right? But I just think it's important just to live it, not just moments. I think it's important to do it all the time, on the field, off the field, at home, always.
Yeah, it's funny when I said I'm the exact same way. I didn't mean that I curse. I meant that I don't curse for that reason because it's something I struggled with when I was younger. So it's something that for me was just a conviction for me that I had to work through with God. And thankfully he's delivered me from that. But it's amazing when you're around people. When I was working at ESPN and I was around a lot of my fellow coworkers and even some people that were on air, they said to me, how come you don't curse, Romano? I never hear you use language. And I just said, that's just kind of how I am. It's just, I don't feel like I need to use language to get my point across. I can get it across completely without using words like that. And I'm not trying to be super Christian guy, right? Or anything like that, like you said, Ty, but I think it was just something that they noticed. I wasn't saying, hey, I'm the guy who doesn't curse, look at me. I was just being myself and trying to be a light, like you said. And people noticed that. So I only tell you that to ask you, is that something people notice when, they're around you, whether it's teammates or anybody else? They're like, wait a minute, this guy isn't using that colorful language that maybe some of the other guys that I've been around are using.
Yeah, they do it. It's almost kind of a joke,
Yeah.
The guys think it's funny because we'll go and we'll break it out, and some, whoever wants to say the break, say, bad mother effers on 3, and I'm like, okay, bad, and then I say bad mother, I just won't say it. They kind of laugh and look at me like, oh yeah, see if I say it and never say it.
Yeah.
They kind of laugh about it, but then it'll then lead into conversations like, why don't you, and then I kind of say why. But then there's other times, that I'll have guys that also come up to me and just say, man, hey, just the way that I guess I carry myself each day, man. Like if I ever miss a day, like, man, it wasn't the same without you. Man, we need you around, man. It's different when you're not here. And whenever guys say that kind of stuff, it's like, man, that's cool. That's how you know that what you're doing is making a difference, whether you even realize it or not. Like that's the moment you realize it because they say it, And so that's kind of fuel to the fire to continue to be like that because you're encouraging somebody else.
Well, it also opens up opportunities through social media or whatever when you have a fan of yours that might be, following you to know that you're being a great example for those kind of people, those fans and the people that might follow you. They're not going to, find some stuff on there. Not that it's, again, this is not judging anybody else, but I think there's a legit responsibility to proclaim, to be a follower of Christ and carry that through, especially to the people that are following you or are fans of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of sad when you see guys that have this platform and just some of the things that just gets plastered everywhere. It's like there's so many kids that look up to guys like us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like you have such a responsibility to the people, right? To kind of show them, because social media is such a big thing right now. People get their news, they get everything. Their whole influence is through social media at times, especially the younger generation. And if that's the stuff they're seeing, that their heroes, that their favorite players are doing, and it's just, partying, spending all sorts of money, cussing all the time, fighting some dude, cussing people out, it's just like, then of course they're going to mimic that. And then you're creating a society that's just normal, And so that's why my goal is like, with the opportunity I have, with any time I get to interact with anyone, whether it's on a social media platform or radio station or out at practice or just walking through in a restaurant, I want to make sure that, because people know, like there's one time that my wife and I went to dinner after a preseason game, my rookie year actually, and there was a long table and we're sitting there eating, having a good time. And I get to walk out and this whole table's like, "Hey, Ty, great job. Great pick six in the preseason game." They started clapping, like, "Good job." But I wouldn't have known that they would have had any idea who I am. And if I was in there acting a fool, being rude to the waitress, or just like yelling at my wife or just whatever the situation could have been, they would have seen that. But I wouldn't have known that if they hadn't said anything. But just like that, you never know.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to always be consistent. And just the way you carry yourself, because people are always watching, and that's what this platform does. And I wish there were more guys that prioritize making a difference, and there are, and the guys that do,
there's a lot.
I'm so happy that they do, because we need more of that. But there's also a lot that don't too. So
salt and light, my friend, salt and light. That's all you can be. Last question. Thanks so much for your time. I'm excited for this season to start, and I'm excited to watch you and root for you. What's the Lord showing you and teaching you right now? What's he been impressing on your heart today? We'll even say just today, right? It feels like every day is a different day that God teaches us a new lesson. What's he showing you right now?
Man, I would say it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about, of just kind of trusting his plan. There's just so much uncertainty, like I said, that goes along with this industry. Right. And there's a lot of worry that I have. My wife and I just had a baby not too long ago. So it's congrats. Thank you. There's a sense of needing to provide for the future. And now that I see him, like, I don't want to spend any time away from him. So there's like this motivation to want to provide more now in this job. That way that I can then devote so much more time to him and my other future kids with job freedom. That's kind of my goal. And so ultimately, I know what my plan is and what I would want to happen, my picture perfect, but I've been having to practice submitting everything to God and just taking it one day at a time and doing everything I can to make myself better and just control what I can control, knowing that whether I stay here, and I continue to play, I go somewhere else, or I don't play, if I'm just done after this year, that it's all meant to be, and I did everything that I could. That's what I want to do. Whenever I'm done, I want to know that I gave everything that I could to this, and know that whatever. So that's kind of my sense of freedom and peace that I feel is just in that sole reliance in him, knowing that I control this much.
And
that's it. And I'm gonna worry about this much, because that's all that matters for me, because everything else, that's all him, and that's the biggest thing that he's been revealing. It's been each day I've had to remind myself that, even in certain interactions, whether it's with certain coaches or players, okay, hey, that didn't go down exactly what I wanted to, or maybe I wasn't perfect at practice today. Don't eat that up. I can't do anything about it now. Learn from it, on to the next. You know, that's kind of where I'm at right now. So
that's a good philosophy and a great way, great perspective to have, I think, Ty. Thanks so much for being here, buddy. Thanks for being here on Sports Spectrum, and look forward to watching you this year. And hopefully we'll get you back on. This was fun. Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate you reaching out. Thank you very much, Jason.
You got it. Thanks so much for watching today on Sports Spectrum. Make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos. And if you want more stories on sports and faith, check out our website, sportsspectrum.com.